Content design and UX writing internships are great ways to break into the industry. But how does it all work? Today, I have a very special guest to tell you all about it. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Yvonne and I am a content designer in tech. I make YouTube videos to help you gain insights into the industry. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to subscribe and follow along the journey. Our guest today is Loren. Loren is currently a content designer at Uber based in New York City. Before joining Uber, Loren had a career in digital communication and a bachelor's degree in journalism. After that, she decided to pursue her degree in mass communication and pivot her career into the user experience field. During her study, she interned at Uber as a content design intern. And in her free time, she loves watching a lot of TV while cuddling with her two cats, Anchovy and Pepperoni. In today's video, we'll be covering everything from finding an internship to applying and how to make the most out of your internship experience. So sit back, take notes, and let's get started. I wanted to know a little bit about your story before joining Uber as a content design intern. What made you want to apply for content design internships in the first place?
Disclaimer, before applying to that internship, I barely knew what content design was. A certain YouTuber helped me kind of figure out what content design was, and I was doing research. Basically, I got my bachelor's degree in journalism, and it was right at the end of my senior year. I knew I no longer wanted to be a journalist, but I wanted to do something in digital communications, and I did a project that was the future of technology and journalism, I think, something like that. And my partner and I talked about interactive design and UX design, and I was I have no clue what this is. He knew all about it, and I just kind of followed behind. But I wound up being oh, this is really, really interesting, and I want to know more. I got a graduate certificate in human computer interaction, learned a lot about UX design. But something about it, I was just I don't really want to be a designer. I don't really care to pick colors and make buttons. Something about that wasn't really it. And then with UX research, something about that also wasn't really appealing, but I did like the aspect of the psychology behind it. So I could never really find the right thing. So once I got to my master's program, my advisor connected me with someone that he knew at a different company. And she was a UX researcher. And I was just kind of I don't really know research is for me, but I'm interested in at least trying it. Because it's probably the least experience that I had compared to design. And she was oh yeah, you can try these different volunteer options that she had other peers do. And then I joined this volunteer group, and I applied for one of their volunteer projects, and they were oh yeah, you can be this UX writer. And I was whoa, I applied for a researcher, I don't even know what UX writing is. So I started looking into it, and I was oh wait, I like writing. I have a journalism background. I always enjoyed copy editing, copywriting, and I have interest in advertising, and all of these things started to come together. And I was this is the part of UX that I was looking for. I just never had the name for it. So after I did that volunteer experience, I was okay, I really desperately need an internship. I had specifically broken up my master's program to have a summer where I could have an internship. So I was getting to February, and I was panicking, pulling my hair out. So I'm just searching on LinkedIn, UX writing, anything, and content design was coming up, and I was oh, okay, this is kind of the same thing. They're similar. They're basically the same job, and I'm just applying to any UX writing, content design internship that I could find, and I found Uber.
That sounds actually a lot of prep work leading up to the moment of applying for it. How many internships did you end up applying?
I probably could look back, and I have a application tracker. I probably could look it up, but I mean, it had to be 20 or 30, because this was the summer, so I feel that's where there's the most content design internships available. But yeah, I applied for a lot of them, really small ones. I think I even applied to one that was on campus, or something that was similar on campus, all the way up to Uber and other big companies. But I kind of was just blasting out my application because I was just I need an internship. I just need the experience. And I knew that UX writing or content design was my path, but I just was I need real experience now. So I'm just blasting out applications. I like forgot I applied to Uber until I heard back. I was like, oh wow, like I mean I'm excited, but I just was kind of like just throwing out my resume at one point. So I was like, oh cool, I like forgot about them like 2 months later.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. And it's really awesome that you apply to a lot of places and then, you were open to all kinds of opportunities just for that real world experience. And I think for a lot of early career people, like having that first opportunity is so crucial. When I was becoming a content designer, like internships didn't even exist. So when people were bringing up the topic, oh, can you talk a little bit about internship? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like I've never done it before. So that's really, really awesome. How did you find out about the internship opportunities? Like what kind of tools or like methods did you resort to look for them?
Definitely LinkedIn. Like I am a LinkedIn groupie. So I'm always gonna search for jobs on LinkedIn. That's just like my go-to. I think I'm just the most familiar with it, especially now, like as they start to add more features, like you can see who posted the job and what connections you have with them. Things like that just always worked well for me. I do utilize like my college's like career website. Like I said, I was open to any opportunity. So I was like, if it's on campus and it's like not quite content design intern, but something similar, I'll take that. Or, like all the way up to like big companies. But I was finding a lot of those bigger opportunities on LinkedIn. So that's where I was applying.
What was the application process like for you? And what kind of skills did you highlight coming from someone with like, I guess, non-traditional content design background?
Yeah, that was probably the hardest part. That's probably something I'm still trying to figure out is like, how do I spin my resume to be relevant when I don't have like this extensive background, but I do have experience that's relevant. Definitely trying to like highlight on like I have writing background, I've written content for social media, emails, things like that. Was always like what I was trying to like push at people. Like I promise I've done content work before, just not in this capacity of like user interface. Also, like I don't have like a traditional design degree, but like I would try to like spin my resume to say like, oh, I have a communications degree, but I have relevant coursework in copy editing and design, web design for comm professionals, different types of courses that I took that definitely led to this path. And then talking about it too, like in my cover letter, like explaining a little bit, like while I did X, Y, and Z, I mostly focused on the website where I wrote content for new web pages and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think a lot of, because content design is new-ish of a field, a lot of people with like writing degree, communication background, like even English majors have a hard time trying to pivot like the skill sets, even though there are a lot of overlaps of the three areas to the career path. Great job pivoting.
Especially like these days when you have like ATS that's reviewing your resume and it's like you're just trying to get those like trigger words from the job posting in there without lying. Like it's difficult, but like you just got to find that overlap for sure.
Yeah. I want to ask you if you have any tips for people applying for content design internships for the first time. How did you manage to craft a resume in a way that's applicable to the internships?
Yeah, definitely like getting rid of all the fluff and like other duties. Like even if it means going from like 5 bullet points to like 2 or 3, I think it's better to just like have those strong points where you're like, I wrote content for social media and like pulling that out and just like leaning on that for your job instead of being like, oh, I did social media and I also like planned events and then I was also like the campus ambassador and then I was this and that. Just taking all of that extraness out of it and just like throwing away, it hurts a little bit. You're like, I promise I did a lot of this job, but like the main focus here is like what will be relevant to the job. So just like focusing on the keywords of a job posting, taking those, fluffing up your resume, taking what was relevant and leaning on that.
Great tips. Now I'm gonna pivot a little to ask you about basically the application process for you. First question I had was, how did you prepare for your interview?
Oh my gosh, I watched Yvonne's YouTube video.
I didn't pay her to say this.
Genuinely, like I had already seen your videos, and then when you get the list of everyone who's going to interview you, I was like looking everyone up, just kind of like doing my homework, seeing what maybe I had in common with them, what we could talk about that would be interesting to them. And I was like, oh, I've seen Yvonne before. Literally watched her video. That is true advice, like just doing your research. I feel like the generic answers are always like, know the like company's core values and things like that, but I felt like understanding the people was more important to me. And then prepping, I mean, they definitely gave us, oh, you'll like present your writing assignment. Sorry.
Cat alert.
They were like, you'll definitely present your like writing assignment, you'll do a case study, and then what they told us was like behavioral questions, and that wound up not being what we talked about. But you know, just like trying to like calm yourself down by being prepared. I'm definitely one of those people, like the more prepared I feel, the less nervous I am.
Did you have a call with a recruiter at any point? Like a phone interview?
I think we only emailed. It was like a very fast process because it was like, hey, fill out this assignment. Oh, hey, like we're going to interview you next week. Oh, hey, like you got the internship. Like it was all within like a couple of weeks. So yeah, I never had to do a phone screening and I only did the one interview. So there wasn't much like prep, but there was a good opportunity to contact your recruiter and ask questions about what the interview was going to be like. And they definitely were really transparent about like, this is what you'll talk about and this is what you should bring, etc.
We made sure that the application process was painless because I know like in the real world of like content design jobs, sometimes the interviewing process can be so gruesome, like 4 or 5 rounds of interview. I'm like, that is way too much.
Yeah, I was kind of psyching myself out because I was watching videos about interviewing like for content design or for product design, anything. And like everyone's like, oh, there was like 3 rounds and a phone screening and this and that. And I was like shaking in my boots about it. But I mean, sometimes it was helpful just to know like what kind of questions would be asked or like how other people prepared. But sometimes you gotta like limit yourself on like how much research you do before you like psych yourself out. You're like, oh my God, I'm like not prepared, or like I don't know what I'm going to talk about, or like am I like qualified for this too. I feel like you can be over prepared. It's just like one, then you find yourself being stiff, you find yourself being more nervous because you're like, okay, am I really ready for this? Do as much as you feel like you need to go in comfortably, but like don't overdo it before you like psych yourself out.
Yeah, and I think like even the interviewing process is kind of like a two-way process too. You want to evaluate whether you even want to work there or not, and over preparing just gonna make yourself like a little robot with like all the answers ready to go, and you don't get to immerse yourself in the process and actually get to know the people.
For sure. So, I definitely try to like bring my personality to interviews, and if I feel like my personality is like not matching with them, or it's clashing, or like they can't take my little jokey jokes, then maybe this isn't the atmosphere for me, because I need to be able to mesh well. Like this is, especially with an internship, like you want to have a good experience. This is your opportunity to learn. And if you're not going to be comfortable for like the whole semester or the whole summer, like why are you here? What are you going to get from this, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. What was the most challenging question during the interview, and how did you respond to the question?
I think first of all, I like blanked out in the interview, I guess, because like anytime someone asked me what was asked, I'm like, you know, I don't know. I do specifically remember, what does content design mean to you, or some variation of that was asked, and I was like, mind you, I had prepared behavioral questions because that's what we were told to do. So I'm thinking like there's going to be questions about like name a time where you did X, Y, and Z. And then I was like totally unprepared for these like philosophical, like existential questions about like what is content design to me. And then I'm like shaking. And I think that it was really difficult, but it actually wound up being kind of easy to just like speak on, because I had been doing my research. I was passionate about it at this point. I really, really wanted the internship, and I really wanted to be in content design. So that's where like my passion got to shine through. But like I was totally unprepared for the questions. So that's what made it kind of hard, because I was just like jarred, like, oh, what is content design? Like I don't even know. Is there a right answer? I definitely think going into questions just believing there is no right or wrong answer is like the best mindset, and just like answer as you go. But I really believed in my answer when I said content design meant, but definitely like I had nothing prepared, so it was just like on the fly.
Yeah, I think the fact that you were passionate about it before even applying for the internship definitely prepped you for answering the question. Like from an interviewer perspective, the reason we wanted to put that question into the poll is to filter out the people who like, oh, it's in tech, it's like writing related, but there's so much more to content design than just writing, and we really wanted to filter out the people who actually like who didn't understand so much about content design, was hoping this to just be a writing internship, and No, we're here for the people.
We're here for a reason. Yeah, at the end of it, I was like, I see what they did there.
Are you here for the right reason?
I see what they did there. That's another tip is like, don't be afraid to like take a moment to just be like, let me think like think about the answer for a second. I feel like in an interview, you're like, oh, I don't want to like pause too long or like I look like I'm thinking too hard. But like, I feel like that was the type of question, like take your time to come up with an answer and then deliver it. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid to like pause for a second and like think on it. Even if you look like you're just like frozen, I'm like I'm computing, like I just like freeze up.
Yeah, like don't worry, it's not awkward like at all.
Yeah, like no one's like, hurry up.
Yeah. Checking the clock.
They have like a timer running in the background, like waiting.
Yeah. This candidate failed to answer a question within 5 seconds. Eliminated.
X, like.
So I know for some content design internships, a portfolio is required. Some are not. Did you end up showcasing any piece of your previous work, and did you find them to be, I guess, helpful building your case?
I did, and it sucked. I remember like that was like the first point of contact that I got from my original recruiter was like, oh, hey, like we didn't have a point on the application for you to add your portfolio, but we have to have it for this process. And I was like, oh no, like I have like this thrown together like Canva slideshow of a portfolio. And I was like, okay, this is all I got. I mean, here you go. So then they were like, oh, we'll share a case study or share a portfolio piece in your interview. And I was like, oh no. Okay. So I shared the volunteer experience that I did for UX writing, which was helpful. I'm glad I had that because that was like the most like put together project. Like I could at least be like, here are like some UI pieces that I did write for. And here's the screens and here's what I learned from the experience versus trying to like piece together something from like my past career would have been a lot harder. I still don't know the right answer of how to present that in like a UX perspective, but definitely I was like not super confident. I was confident in like what I was speaking about, but I was just not confident in like the like look and feel of my portfolio. But maybe at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It just was like, let me see the work. But I also was like, I don't know if this work was good. Like this was a volunteer experience. It wasn't like an internship where I learned from someone and they were able to like, you know, like check me on my work. It was just like solely me and another UX writer, and we were just both learning and we were like learning together. So I leaned on that. I give my portfolio a 1 out of 10.
You know, like I would say looking at you showcasing your portfolio piece, it was like at least 300% better than mine. Like when I got my first job, like mine was in like a Google Doc with a bunch of screenshots, and like I didn't even bother to align them nicely. Like it was all over the place, and I didn't know how to present my portfolio because I didn't bother to look up videos on that. Like you gotta tell a story through that, you know. And so I was just like just scrolling through the doc and like, you guys can check it out. Like these are the work that I've done. Let me know if you have any questions. And like,
thanks.
I would never ever do that again. Next question: what questions did you ask back to the interviewers?
Oh my gosh, I cannot remember. Do you remember what I can't remember. I just remember being really curious about like what the day-to-day looked like. I don't know if that was actually what I asked, because I do think that's really important, and that is a question worth asking. Like what will my experience be, or what does my summer look like? Is it structured? Is it like week by week I'm learning something? Is there a project at the end of it? Because that structure means a lot. Like you don't realize until you have like a totally unstructured internship, like how little you learn or how like underdeveloped you come out of it. But when there's like a really solid structure, whether it is like week by week or like project based, you learn a lot.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really great question to ask, especially for companies who posted their like UX writing or content design internship for the first time. If there's a lack of structure, you can create your own structure. So
yeah, you want to know that going into it. Like it's
yeah.
It might not be a hard no to the internship, but it's just like getting your bearings before that experience and like knowing what you need to bring, or like what more research you might have to do before starting, if you're not going to have like really structured guidance along the way.
Yeah, totally. Did you happen to follow up after the interview? If so, how did you follow up after the interview, and did you get responses? What was that like?
I think I connected with everyone on the panel on LinkedIn, but I don't think I like wrote a specific message like thank you or anything. I definitely followed up with my recruiter because we didn't have like specific emails or anything. This was like everything was through our recruiter. So I definitely followed up with her and was like, if I could get any feedback, if there's any, let me know, or like I just want the internship piece. Like just like kind of showing my interest in it, like being honest about it. Like it doesn't have to be, I know a lot of people will say like, oh, follow up and say like, and ask for feedback or just thank them. I was like straight up like, I really enjoyed the interview. Like I'm really excited about this internship opportunity. Like I hope I get it. Like being really transparent about your interest in it, I feel like could go a really long way. Like everyone's probably interested in the internship, but like you said, like with asking like, what does content design mean to you? Like you really want to know like that people are passionate and that they really want to be here. So I'm like, let me put myself out there and just be like straight up like, I really want to be hired. I'm sorry. Please.
And then you did great. You did great, and we were really thrilled to have you. I think we're gonna move on to your actual internship experience. The first question is, what was it like for your internships? Like any highlights? Anything you want to mention about your internship experience?
It definitely was. Like if I had to describe it in one word, it was worthwhile. Down to like the structure, the people I met, the work I did, going in person to San Francisco, like all of it was just like worthwhile. It was very important to like have a good experience because I also was like leaving home in Florida. I'm like, I would hate to get there and then be like, I wasn't having a good experience or I didn't get anything out of that. All the while like spending money to be in San Francisco and like being away from home. I was like homesick the whole summer. What trumped that homesickness was like just having a worthwhile experience, like actually learning something, meeting great people like Yvonne, and just like overall having a really good time with like the people I was working with and the work I was getting to do. It was just worthwhile.
I'm glad the internship was worthwhile for you. I'm glad you also get to experience like, I guess, the San Francisco tech scene a little bit. I don't know if I can do it, but because you experienced it, you never have to wonder like, oh, like would it have been better if I moved to San Francisco? Like you don't have to wonder. You tried, it didn't work for you. Like New York is your place now.
Yeah, that's always my thing too, because like at least then we were still kind of transitioning back into doing in-person internships. So like we got the option to stay remote or come in person. If I had stayed home, I would have forever wondered what it would have been like to go to San Francisco. Like at least if I did it and hated it, then I would just be like, okay, I did it, I hated it, it's whatever. But I would always wonder, if I stayed home, I would always wonder like what it would have been like. So I'm glad I just like bit the bullet and went for it.
In the interview, you asked about day-to-day for the content design internship. What was it actually like for you now that you have experienced it yourself?
It definitely was like just in the weeds writing. Like that was like every day, like working on my project, going to meetings. It felt like literally like what my day is like now as a full-time content designer, which is really great. Like, I mean, it was a really great internship experience to like get to do what like a full-time person would do. I was out there on my own. Like I really had to work. And so my day-to-day was just like working on my project, going to meetings, trying to learn from different people. I had different opportunities definitely to like meet with some of the people and like figure out what they were doing or what they were interested in and learn from them. Regular working day, just like typing away, hitting meetings.
Yeah, I'm really glad that the internship experience is as close as it can be for like a full-time role, and you get to go try a lot of real life projects and real life challenges, like working with different stakeholders. So I'm glad you get to have that exposure as well.
Especially like for an internship, like you wanted to mimic real life as much as possible because you're in college. This is the time to like know like, oh, I actually enjoy this, instead of like graduating, joining the workforce and then being like, oh, I hate this job that I got a whole degree in, you know? So I remember like my manager checked in at like the very end of the summer and was like, so do you think you like want to be a content designer? And I'm like, well, I mean, I spent the whole summer being a content designer, but like it was a valid question. Now that you've actually done the job, like, is this what you want to do with your life? Like, do you see yourself graduating and doing this? And I'm like, yeah, definitely. Like, I actually really enjoyed this. Had I like spent the day to day and been like, this is boring, I don't want to write for UI and I hate people at this company, like, that would have been great to know by the end of the summer, you know, like instead of being like, oh, I only worked with interns, we all had a good time, and we like did this like fake project, and then I went on and like, oh, I think that was great. But actually getting to like work with different cross-functional partners, like doing a project that actually wound up launching. Oh, this is like actually work I'll get to work on. These are people I will actually work with. Like I do want to come back to this company. I do want to do this job, you know.
That's really, really great. Could you share a time or like a challenging task or a situation during the internship and how you managed through it? Now it feels like a behavioral question, but like I just want to
name a time when you worked with a team member who now I definitely remember, and I feel like I still experience this. I think it just kind of comes with being like a content designer, or maybe it was coming with being an intern. I was not sure, so like I was talking to my manager about it, but I definitely felt like at one point people weren't listening to me, and I was like, I don't know if it's because I'm an intern or like is it because I'm a content designer. And I do still feel like it might have been because I was a content designer, because I kind of get that today when like some people, you know, like you work with some people and they kind of value it more than others, and then like, you know, you give your opinion and they're like, no, I just think this will be better. You're like, okay, but I literally get paid for this. So that's kind of what I was experiencing, which is nice. I'm actually kind of glad that I experienced like kind of a pitfall of content design. Again, going back to like experiencing the day-to-day and like knowing if that's what you want to do. Like, do I want to have to like fight for my work every project? Yes, because I'm argumentative. I remember I was going to my manager and was like, oh, I don't know if it's like because I'm an intern, so like they don't, like maybe I seem too young to listen to, or is this like because like they don't really value content design? And he kind of gave me like the tools that I needed to like address the issue, but also like kind of evaluate what might be the problem. And it did kind of turn out to be like just kind of a content of like people understanding what content design is and like valuing what we're inputting into the project. And so like how to like defend my work was something that I got to learn. It was frustrating at first, but it definitely was like a good lesson. And like I said, like it was something I could take with me later on to be like, these are the challenges I'll face, but like I'm willing to face them for the work, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think stakeholder management is still like a very hot, very difficult topic for any UX professionals. You're gonna run into a situation where you have a difficult stakeholder, whether you being a UX designer or a content designer. Within content design, trying to prove our value, it can be exhausting at times, and you gotta have something that drives you to be able to do that piece of work, that piece of influencing without feeling totally burned out from the work.
Right.
So you got to find your why. And I'm glad that, you know, I'm not glad that they were not listening to you. Like that is not okay. But I'm glad you got to experience that, and still reaffirms that even after all these difficulties, I'm still interested in content design.
It was a good lesson to learn, like either how to defend my work or know when to let it go. You know, like sometimes you just kind of like, this is a battle I don't have the time to fight. And that's okay. But like getting that opportunity, even in an internship, is like frustrating, but it's valuable.
Yeah. My next question is, did you have any mentorship or like learning opportunities during the internship, and how was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, beyond just like my assigned mentor who would like help me through my work, which was great because I would like go to her every day with questions and just be like, help. And I still do. She's still my mentor to this day. So I still go to her with a bunch of questions. But there were definitely other opportunities, like I said before, to insert myself into what other people were interested in or the type of work that they were doing. So like in my master's program, I was kind of learning a lot about like accessibility, diversity, equity, and inclusion in UX. So like finding out that there was a whole like product equity team at Uber, I was like, and then there's a content designer, like I just want to follow her around and like talk to her every day. But then like also I was really interested in like AI and VR, social robots. So then finding out that there's a conversation designer on the team, and I'm just like, I want to follow you around and go everywhere with you. And then like other people were like in these working groups and like just like working on kind of like their passion projects while they were still like learning different aspects of content design, like information architecture, object-oriented UX. And I would just kind of join in on these like working groups or like follow them around or just talk to them about what their day-to-day looks like. I've just made everyone be my mentor, essentially. like why force myself to only have one mentor when I could have like 10 across the board and just like learn all these different parts of content design and UX that was like really interesting to me. And even some of them, if I was just like, oh, that's not really like sparking my interest as much as I thought it would, that's fine. At least getting to like touch base with it and like see like what else everyone else was really interested in, or like how they were forming their niche within content design was really interesting to me, and was like something that I could learn from. Just like finding your mentors and like making people be my mentor was definitely like my motto during the summer.
That's really awesome. I really like that you seeked out additional like opportunities for yourself beyond what's provided of you, and you had that confidence inserting yourself into situations and that openness to learning new things. I think
Right.
any interns should have that open mindset as they go into their internships and trying to learn from people, like even people who are not directly content designers. Like you can
Right,
learn a lot
exactly.
from a design manager, you can learn a lot from a product designer.
Exactly.
Another thing I thought you did really well was during a lot of our content design crits. I think a lot of interns, like even myself included, sometimes I would fall into the mindset of like, oh, like I'm not senior enough, like maybe I shouldn't talk too much during
Yeah.
the meetings, like maybe I shouldn't show my work. Like you were presenting your work like a true content design professional, and you were providing opinions and like feedback to other people's work just like a content design professional. And I thought like that was really really awesome, and it really made people believe, like establish your credibility of the
Mhm.
work that you are capable of doing and the interesting perspective that you bring to the table as well. I'm sure it made it easier for return offer, which is like the next thing I want to ask you about. How did return offer work for you?
Definitely like when we started, I think there was like 12 of us total of design interns. And when we started, it was kind of communicated to us that like you have an internship, so like a return offer is on the plate for you. As long as you do well, your performance is good, and like you're recommended for that. The way that they were hiring interns was that like there would be headcount after they graduated. But then of course, like the whole like tech job market just kind of like crashed that summer. And so probably about like halfway through, our recruiter used to do like these check-ins with us and just be like, yeah, like everything looks good. Do you have questions about your internship, questions about return offers, blah, blah, blah. And then like halfway through the summer, she was like, actually, so we can guarantee any type of return offers, and we don't know what headcount would look like. And so then it kind of became like very tense. Like we were like, okay, like we all really want to come back. I definitely think what helped is that like I expressed interest like the whole summer. I'm like telling my manager, when I come back, when I come back, this is like the office I want to be in, and this and that. And so like just like communicating that like I'm really interested in being back. I'm really enjoying my time here. Don't jump the gun too early, and like, you know, express your interest before you like know for sure like this is the company you want to be at, and like this is the job you want to do. But definitely halfway through the summer, I was like, I love it here. I love the work I'm doing. I want to come back, please, please, please. So just communicating my interest throughout the summer definitely helped. Definitely was like networking. I don't know if coming in person helped, but then like that decision went to like my manager, my manager's manager, his manager, his manager, like all the way up to like the VP of design. So it's like coming in person meant that I got to meet the VP of design and like talk to her, and like she knew my name, and I'm like expressing interest in coming back. Again, I don't know if that was like the be all. I don't know if that was the reason, but like I just know coming in person, like she had a face to the name when that's going up the pipeline to say like, hey, we want to get this person a return offer. Oh, okay, you know, Loren, like I remember her name, I remember her face, she came to like happy hour or whatever. So definitely networking. But then at the end of it, it was definitely like biting nails. Like I extended my internship, so I was a little closer to like the time from when I finished to the time that I got the phone call. But like all of the interns, we were just kind of like biting our nails, like messaging each other, like, have you heard back from our recruiter? Like, what's happening? What's going on? And we were just like shaking in our boots, like, we all want to come back. I want you to come back. I want to go back. And so I think a few of us got the call first. We also had like a really dodgy recruiter. She would like disappear for days and then be like, I'm going to call you, and then like forget. So like, she like kept us on the line for a really long time. But it was like, you know, she called a few of us on like the same day, and then, you know, we let the others know. And then I think a couple more, but then it wound up only being like, I think like half of us got a return offer, maybe like a little bit less than that. It seemed like there was no formula. Like I can't tell you, like it was showing interest, and it was networking, and it was coming in person, and it was this and that. And, you know, these are all things that probably contributed to it.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of these unpredictable factors shows further that don't expect return offers all the time.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't promise it at the beginning, but it was like pretty obvious how they were communicating it. Like, if you do well, like you can get a return offer. And I mean, it was totally out of their control for like the job market to just like crash. That's not anybody's fault, but it was just like, had we just like been on the line and just thought like, okay, I don't know if I'll come back, it would be great if I do. Like, I didn't even like accept a internship with the idea that I could come back. So it was like, once we started and we heard that, we were like, oh, excited the whole summer. And then it was like, you know, like dreams died by the end of the summer. So it was really sad. But I'm really grateful to have gotten to come back to like my same team, come back to Uber, period. Definitely grateful for that. But I mean, that's pretty rare these days.
Yeah, and I really like that you kind of planted the seed of your interest ahead of time with your manager and the people around you. One thing with like corporate visibility is like no one's gonna go out of their way to fight for your visibility. Like you gotta own your own narrative, and you gotta make people know so that they will know, because they're not gonna just know.
Yeah, they can't read your mind. And I definitely feel like as an intern, it should be no surprise that like you're looking for a job after graduation. You're literally a student who's graduating in like a year or less. No one was surprised that I'm like, I want a job after I graduate. Like, well, duh, like who doesn't? So there should be no reason to be scared to speak up and say that like this is something you're interested in, something you want to do, because everyone knows that you're like literally here to get a job.
What are some of like, I guess, key lessons that you took away from the internship?
Definitely like insert yourself into different opportunities. Definitely accept that like you're meant to be there. I feel like imposter syndrome was like alive and thriving that whole summer. Like I was like, I have no experience in this. Am I qualified really? Like, especially like I said, like I was doing this like whole project that like wound up shipping. Like I felt like this was too big for me. But like if people believed in you enough to hire you, they believe in you enough to give you this project. Just like believing that would have been enough to make me stop sweating the whole summer. Like every time I would like go into a meeting and I needed to like present work or talk about like what I was working on, I would be like sweating. Oh no, like they're gonna see right through me. Like I'm a ghost. So just believing that you're there for a reason and that the people who brought you here believe that you should be here.
Yes to all that. I love it. I love it. Check. Well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your insights. I'm sure people watching will find it so helpful, insightful. I'll see you around. It's so weird. Like we work at the same place, so happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And that's it, y'all. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and huge kudos to Loren for sharing all the amazing insights with us today. If you liked today's video, make sure to like and subscribe. And until then, see you next time. Bye!